Well, hey guys, welcome to another live episode of My Counselor Online, where we talk with one of our clinicians here and we talk about relevant things that are important to all of us. And I can't wait to get into the article that our clinician here has written. My name is Matthew, and I am thrilled to be hosting today's episode. Joining me all the way from the West Coast is Kristina Paris. Kristina, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for joining us. Before we dive into the article that you wrote, why don't you tell us just a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Kristina Paris. I live here in California, and I love to do marital work as a counselor. So that's one of the things I feel like I kind of specialize in. Um, and yeah, I just like to go to the beach, and that's one of my hobbies. And like to do a lot of reading books and articles and good stuff like that, a lot of learning. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Well, thank you for sharing, Kristina.
Mhm.
And I'm a little jealous of those West Coast sunsets. They're absolutely just beautiful.
Beautiful.
Oh,
Hmm.
yeah. Yeah. Well, let's talk about an article that you wrote. And the article is called "Should I Date or Wait?" So, Kristina, what inspired you to write this article?
Yeah, so I wanted to provide like another lens to give a different perspective of what people should look for when they enter into a relationship, what things they should consider when creating an atmosphere for like a long lasting relationship, even if that means that they are um, like courting or they're young in high school and about to enter into a dating relationship, or even if they're already in that relationship in the beginning stages. They kind of know what red flags to look for, what things to kind of seek out to make sure that this
Mhm.
is a compatible person for marriage, right? Um, so some of those things can be religion, um, really just checking under the hood of the car, if you will, to make sure everything is like functioning properly before you purchase it, right? So if things are kind of looking a little wacky tacky underneath the hood, then you might need to pause and do some more like inspecting and making sure that it's working right and that this is a compatible thing that will properly fit you. So I just wanted to provide another lens to help people take a deeper look into a new perspective or a new way of um, assessing and interviewing for, is this a good candidate for me? Is this a proper relationship that I will be happy with, a good relationship that I will be like happy with, and it will fit like my lifelong goals and good for kids when I want to dive into that. Just a lot of questions to kind of use, a lot of tools to use to assess, is this a right fit for me? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I thought it was good. I mean, right now the world is telling us how dating goes, and
Mhm.
we have all these poor examples of that. So it's good to have the Christian perspective
Mhm.
also from a clinician too. So I
Mhm.
really appreciated the article from that standpoint.
Mhm.
And you mentioned like a few people already, young people, people in courting, who are courting. Did you have someone specific in mind when you wrote this article? Like, who is this article written for?
Yeah, so this article is really aimed at people that want to engage in a long-lasting marriage that's targeting like longevity. I want to get married, but I don't want to just get married for 5 or 10 years and just get a person that's not taking it as seriously as I am, right? It's aimed at someone that really wants to be married for their lifetime, right? That takes
Mhm.
commitment seriously, that takes faithfulness seriously, that takes into account, I don't want to play around. I don't want to just frolic around and have fun. I want a serious, committed, dedicated relationship that takes me seriously, takes my values, my morals, my beliefs, everything about me seriously. That's what matters, right?
Mhm.
And so this article is aimed at anybody, even if they're high school, young, and they're like, okay, this is probably a high school sweetheart situation, and or they're in high school trying to find somebody, right? That's okay. What do I look for? What do I aim at? What are some things that I should be thinking about, right? Even to like if they're old in age and they're like back in the dating game, they're 60, 70 years old, they got divorced, they're back in the dating game, they're like, man, I did not do it right the last time. What is it, some tools that I can use to make sure I'm getting the right person for me, what fits me, right? So it's really for all ages, but the aim is long-lasting, committed relationships. This is to help somebody create an atmosphere for a longer lasting, healthy, God-fearing relationship.
Mhm. Yeah, that's good. I want to talk about some things that you mentioned in the article. You mentioned like red flags.
Mhm.
You mentioned things like the religion and all of that stuff. Before I talk about red flags, like why is religion so important?
Yes, religion is so important because God is the foundation for any human being, right?
Amen.
God is um, the backbone and the foundation of an individual, right? And a foundation as well for a relationship. If you don't have God in your relationship, you're already at a disadvantage. Your
Mhm.
life is already, see, as human beings, life throws us curveballs, and we're all going to go through stressors, tribulation, trials, hard things in our life, right? It's inevitable, right? But as we have God on our side, he gives us the tools and the things to help us get through that. We have Christ, right?
Mhm.
And he helps us through these situations. He gives us a way out, if you will, right?
Mhm.
Because we have him. He already took everything to the cross, and he gives us the power to be able to um, overcome and have the victory over those situations, whatever it may be, right? So
Mhm.
if you both come together into the relationship, right? You guys both come together and you both are Christian, not two opposite beliefs, right? Because the Bible also talked about being unequally yoked, right?
Mhm.
But coming together as Christians, as believers into a relationship, you guys are already starting out, okay, this is um, a God-fearing relationship. I have a partner in this that will help me through life's struggles and trials. And we have God as a foundation. It aids in the success and longevity of a marriage because he's also, God knows us best, right? He knows
Mhm.
things about us that we don't even know, right?
Mhm.
So if he is able to, having him in our life, he's able to help us work on ourselves, right? He's able to show us where we went wrong. And in turn, we're able to apply that, and he's able to give us the grace to apply that to our marriage, right? And that can help, that will help in the long-term relationship, right? He wants us
Yeah.
to make it, so he's going to help us make it,
Yeah,
right?
that's right. That's right.
Mhm.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So religion's very important, and I agree with all that
Mhm.
the Bible talks about being unequally yoked, because I've seen how maybe some people can say, well, I could just coerce them into my religion,
Mhm.
and it just and I tell them like, okay, good luck, and it never worked.
Yeah,
So
because
that
they're
it's
doing
so
that for
important.
you. They're not doing
Hmm.
it for their own relationship with God. And so it's not a stable relationship in the first place, right?
Right.
Because they didn't have that experience with God. They had that, they're just saying, hey, I'll do it for you just to get you, right?
Hmm.
That's not a strong foundation in that, right?
No,
Yeah.
no, that's good. So how
Mhm.
about some of the red flags? What are some of the red flags before deciding to date someone?
Yeah, so some examples would be, is this a person that is open, truthful? Are they relationally competent? How are they with finances? Right?
Mm.
Um, how do they handle anger? How do they handle becoming upset? So some of the sections that goes into that the article talks about would be: is this a person that's open, truthful, right?
Mm.
Um, how do they handle anger? How do they handle becoming upset? right? And there's a few things to look at in that section as well. What do their boundaries look like? Do they have poor boundaries? Do they have healthy boundaries? Which can kind of go into codependency, you know? Do they have any addictions, right? How are you going to handle addictions? Do you want to have somebody in your life that has an addiction, right? And what's the outcome, or what does that look like? Is that an invasive question? Like, are they going to try to answer or dance around that topic, right? And if they dance around, that's a red flag. Are they going to be open and honest with you, right? And are they relationally competent, right? So those are just some things that are in the article. There's more, right? But that's just some examples of like some of the red flags that the article talks about. And so red flags essentially is like, what are some things that I should be watching out for? What are some things that I should be concerned about? Is this a healthy relationship or not? Is this one that can help me, right? Do the red flags show that this is a relationship that can help me, that can help me grow, right? Should I stay away from that person, right? A red flag should kind of go up and be like, oh, I should avoid this person. I should not engage in a relationship with them, right? And it can also be a way of showing you, is this person going to be good for not only me, but for my family? How do they engage with my family? Yeah. These are all things to consider, because people say, don't worry about the person, the family of the person that you're going to get married to, right? But realistically, that family is going to be a part of your life, especially if you have kids, for the rest of your life, right? And how do they treat their mother? Like for the man, how do they treat the mother? How do they treat their parents? And for the woman, same thing, right? These are important things because it's also indicative, potentially, of how they're going to treat you, right? These are all important pieces. When we say I do, you're saying yes to the rest of your life. It's not just something that's very lighthearted, right? And just like, oh, okay, I'll say I do. But then next thing you know, 5 years later, they're getting a divorce because they didn't really mean what they said in the first place. Through thick and thin, for better, for worse. Are you able to go through the trenches with this person? Very important.
Yeah. And it's so important to listen to those red flags. I mean, because, at some point, do you think people, if they're just like minor red flags, should the person just bail out, or what is that? What do you do if it's just like one or two red flags? I know you can't fix the person, but what advice could you give somebody?
Yeah, so if it's a few light red flags, it could be something that you can go to counseling for as a couple, premarital counseling. It's good to get someone that is a SYMBIS facilitator. Save your marriage before it starts is what the acronym SYMBIS stands for, which MyCounselor.Online has a lot of them. I am one myself, so you can definitely come and see me. Okay, but a few red flags, depending on the type of red flags they are, is very important for you to see, is this something I'm willing to take on? Yeah. If it's 2 or 3, you can be like, okay, you know what, maybe we can go to counseling for this. Maybe we can discuss this on a deeper level, really see what's kind of going on here with these red flags. But a lot of them is definitely somebody you should be like, okay, I'm going to refrain from engaging in a relationship with this person. Yeah, right. And a lot of red flags can even be seen by, before you enter into the relationship, what kind of company do they keep? What are their friends? Who do they hang around? Because a lot of times the company that they keep will tell about the person that they are, right? Not every time, but a lot of times you'll find out, okay, are they hanging around these people? What kind of activities are they involved in? That means they're okay with participating in those things. It's very telling, right? Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good. And that's very helpful. So tell us, maybe give us a final piece of advice that you
Mhm.
would like to give to those who are watching or listening right now.
Yeah. So be intentional about every relationship.
I like that.
Sometimes if people feel like you are interviewing them, right, that is okay because it really is like an interview, right? You're interviewing them to see, is this the kind of relationship that I want? Are you capable of being what I need in my life?
It's a lifelong decision.
Yes, yes, definitely. And like, what is the goal of this relationship? Is it something to frolic around and have fun? Or am I going to have a long lasting relationship with the goals that I have in mind? Are we compatible? It's okay to take time to go into the relationship. Okay. It's okay to be friends first for an extended period of time. You don't want to end in the friend zone for too long. Okay. But, and when I say watch how they interact with friends and things like that, that don't mean stalking either. Let's just put buffers around that. But, uh, just having end goals in mind and pray and ask God for direction. Is this the relationship that you have for me? Right? Give me direction, Lord, please. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Take your time.
Yes, definitely.
I like that. That's good stuff.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Christina.
Mhm,
Well, first of all, thank you for writing it. We need more stuff like this,
mhm.
because we're getting what dating should look like from all sorts of outlets, and we need it. We need it. We need to hear from the church, God's people, on what this looks like. So I just say, as a pastor, thank you so much for writing this and sharing your heart. Um, your heart is seen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I want to transition into something we like to do around here. We love to dive into what's trending in our society. And so we have a trending topic that's probably been trending for quite some time. And the topic is codependency. And I love hearing from the clinicians' perspectives from these trending topics. So Christina, can you share with us, what is codependency?
Yeah, so codependency is a learned behavior, right? And it can be passed down from families, from generations, right? And so um it can be addicted to relationships, like somebody that relationship hops. They're not okay with being by themselves for a long period of time. Okay. People with codependency often maintain relationships that are one-sided or emotionally destructive or abusive. Okay. Um, and they like to hold on to people and take others' opinions and apply it to themselves, right?
Mm,
Instead of having their own opinion about themselves. It's like they have a lot of these enmeshed relationships too.
mm.
Okay. Yeah.
So what are some signs that someone may be struggling with codependency?
Yeah. So people that have a hard time making decisions in a relationship, okay, so they depend on others for their decision. Okay. Difficulty identifying their own feelings, right? And sometimes that can be um, relying on someone else to kind of identify how they feel. Okay. So they have a difficult time identifying their feelings and communicating in a relationship. Okay. They value the approval of others. Okay. Over their own feelings, over their self, over their um, valuing their own opinion. Okay. Um, and so they lack their own self trust,
Hmm.
trusting themselves. Okay. They lack that and they fear someone leaving them. They fear abandonment.
Hmm.
Um, they have poor self-esteem. Okay. Um, they obsess over the need to feel approved
Hmm.
a lot of times. Um, and a lot of times they take on or feel responsible for the actions of others. Yeah. So those are some of the signs.
Yeah. So somebody's listening or watching this right now, and they just said, "Oh no, I'm codependent."
Mhm.
What can they do? Are there treatment options?
Mhm.
What are some of the things they can do to help?
Yeah, so one would be therapy, right? Going to a counselor, seeking therapy to kind of identify who you really are, what you like, what your needs, desires, and wants are, right? Having that sense of self, okay?
Hmm.
Placing boundaries, making time for yourself. Those are some other things. Um, Identifying patterns in your life or codependent patterns in your life. As you're able to track that, you're able to pinpoint, okay, this is something I see as a pattern. And when I start to engage in whatever process, this pattern comes up. What can I do to stop this pattern? What can I do to stop even entering into the cycle? Right. And so as you put more pins in there, you're going to be able to backtrack more and be able to help yourself. Okay. But essentially going to therapy. Okay.
Yeah.
And having someone to help with that. Practice valuing yourself,
Mm.
right? Taking ownership of yourself and just saying, hey, this is what I deserve. And this is what I feel. And it's okay. And setting boundaries, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And that's good. I mean, I've also seen certain support groups also. I know we've done a Celebrate Recovery before, and one of the certain groups was for codependent people.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
as crazy as it sounds, it was one of the most attended groups of Celebrate
Yes.
Recovery. So there's an option too. Maybe there's one around you, but I definitely agree. Therapy is probably the best start. And then the support groups too.
Hmm.
People, you're better at going at it with people than you are alone.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thanks again for sharing our trending topic with us.
Yes.
Going to transition to the final section of our episode today.
Mhm.
Something we love to do is taking questions from anyone who's watching or listening. And we have two questions that have already been submitted to us. And if you have a question that could be answered on future episodes, you can visit us MyCounselor.Online/ask, and we will answer them in future episodes.
Mhm.
So I'm going to start with our first question for today. And it says, how can I protect my emotional and mental health during the holidays while seeing extended family?
Yes. So first thing I would encourage um, whoever to see a counselor first and check in, make sure that they are have some coping skills that they can utilize during the holidays and when, especially when they're triggered, able to take themselves back to baseline level, back to ground zero. Okay. Um, Self care, right? Doing a lot
Mm,
of self care in those moments, setting boundaries with family members. Okay. Letting them know, hey, this is, that I'm okay with doing these things. I'm not okay with doing this. Whatever those boundaries look like for you, set them and be intentional about those boundaries. Very aware, right? Don't compare yourself to others, right? God uniquely designed you as you. He made you for you. Every person has their own unique thumbprint, right? No person is the same. And so, why would you compare yourself to someone else when God designed a different life and purpose for you, right? So, don't compare yourself to others. Do your own thing and enjoy the holidays for yourself. What you genuinely like to do. Okay. Um, and set realistic expectations, right? It'll help to decrease and reduce the holiday stress. Okay. And just set realistic expectations with those boundaries, put parameters around that, and just say, okay, I'm willing to operate within this. And that's okay. It is okay to be you. Mhm.
yeah, I like that. it's particularly when you were talking about don't compare yourself, but
Mhm.
also don't compare your holiday, what you do, during that
Mhm.
time with other people's holidays. Because I know social media is just like, we're going to display
Yes.
everything, how
Yes.
grand and glorious our holidays are, but
Yes.
just be mindful of that because
Mm.
it's probably not as glorious as they're presenting it to be.
Yes. They
So,
always show the highlights, but they don't show the roughness and the muck of everything, right?
mm,
Sometimes social media can be the worst thing. It can
yeah.
add to depression. It can add to, because everybody's showing the best part or
Mm,
what would seem to be the best part of their life, right? When in actuality, they're in like the trenches. They're trying to put on a
yeah.
fakeness or a front to make things look a certain way when it's really not that way. Kind of
Yeah.
keep that in the back of your mind when you're looking through things.
Yeah. And maybe to protect yourself, stay off of social media during the
Yes.
holidays.
Yeah.
It's so true. I've
Yes.
done that before in the past too. So I'm not just preaching. I'm walking it. I've done that a few times. So, and it is very helpful. You get to just detach and spend time, with you and your family. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
Well, thanks again for that. I'm going to move into our last question
Okay.
for today's episode. And our question is, how do I know if I'm emotionally ready for marriage?
Yes, that's such a beautiful question. So,
Mm,
first and foremost, I would always recommend seeing a premarital counselor, right? We have them here. We have SYMBIS facilitators. Like I said, I am one, Save Your Marriage Before It Starts. We even do Save Your Second Marriage Before It Starts, right? There's different pieces and components that go into that that can help you to find out if you're like really ready for um, to enter into that marriage, right? Um, but in other pieces would be taking responsibility for your actions. Are you able to look at yourself and assess yourself and be like, am I able to take responsibility of this thing that I did wrong to this person? Can I own up to this? Can I apologize? How willing am I to apologize to this person for the wrongdoing that I did? Am I compassionate? Am I empathetic? Right? Am I able to place myself in their shoes when they're in a time of hurt or feeling vulnerable or feeling raw? Right? How do I communicate with them? Am I rough? Am I abrasive? Right? Or am I coming from a tender-hearted place and a Christ loving place with them to help them? Right? Do they feel comfortable with commitment? Are you feeling comfortable with commitment? Right? How committed can you be to the relationship? Does lifelong sound impossible? Is it scary? Those are kind of signs. If you're scared to say, I'm going to be with them for the rest of my life, if it's like jarring for you, maybe take a step back and kind of look at yourself and be like, what am I really afraid of? And am I truly, really ready? Because that's kind of a sign that you might need to pump the brakes a little bit. Um, are you emotionally and mentally ready to take on the life's challenges with them? Okay. That's very important. And can you communicate with love? You don't always need to hit below the belt. And a lot of times when you hit below the belt, you're damaging your relationship more than you think, right? It's a very unhealthy um, place to be when you communicate. And a lot of times anger and things like that can come out, and it's easier to say these things because you want to lash out, but words cannot be taken back. They're out there once you say it. You can say, I forgive you. The person will forgive you possibly, but they won't forget. And that's the piece. It kind of sticks with them. And a lot of times when there's these wounds, right? It's like you dump it out in buckets, but you have to gain it back in drops, right? It's a process. So the more damage you do, the more you have to earn it back, the trust.
yeah.
And also, I would recommend reading The Five Love Languages. I love that book. It is great. It is great for helping people, couples to say, hey, this is the way that you see that you accept love, right? This is how I feel when you do these things for me, right? And so the 5 love languages, according to the book, it says your love tank, right? It helps you to keep your love tank full, whatever action that you do, whether that's words of affirmation or physical touch or quality time or receiving gifts or acts of service. Those are the 5 love languages. But essentially, it breaks it down, and there's a test, I believe, at the end of the book. But it helps you to hone in on what your love language is and how you can receive that love from your spouse, or who, if you're a boyfriend, girlfriend, how you can receive love, okay, in that relationship to help you guys grow and fall in love more with each other and be vulnerable with each other too. That's powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. And in case you haven't heard of that book, it's by Gary Chapman.
Yes.
Yeah. So me and my wife were just talking about this the other day, and she was asking me, I was like, well, girl, you all 5 of the love languages. But it's a great resource. And thank you for pointing that out to us.
Yeah.
Well, Kristina, thank you so much. I've enjoyed having you on, and I know our listeners and what people who are watching today have probably written down a lot of takeaways from what you've said. And so I want to just go back and say, if you haven't read the article yet, it'll be linked to our show notes below, and I want to encourage you to take that article, share it. And thank you so much again, Kristina, for sharing your heart with us.
Yes. Thank you.
Again, thank you guys so much for listening or watching. And I just want to remind you, if you have any questions that you would like to ask for future episodes, you can go to MyCounselor.Online/ask. And again, we'll keep your name private. Also want to just kind of help you stay up to date with all the latest helpful content that comes from My Counselor. We have Facebook and Instagram, and you can go find us with the handle Love My Counselor. Again, on Facebook, Instagram is Love My Counselor. You can also go to YouTube, where there are tons of free resources for you to watch, for you to share with your friends. We're at YouTube at MyCounselor.Online Christian Counseling. You can go subscribe to our page, and also hit that little notification bell so you aren't left out anytime we release some new content. So again, thank you so much for watching and listening today. Thank you again, Kristina, for being with us. We look forward to having you again. Yeah. Well, thanks so much, guys, and we'll see you again next week for another episode of My Counselor Live.